Good. Gels don't start, no? Gels, the stream don't start, you know? The stream don't start, you know?
Yes, I know.
You need to let them know.
But don't
You
tell
can't be
them.
talking to people like that, the stream going on.
The girl them say they're in charge, and if you never get in charge of them,
Just tell them you don't start.
then don't put it on them. Put it on that thing there. Then thing, put it on the back screen. You have to do those things with gentleness. You don't have to roughen up your woman. Okay, let's get it well. Come. Here we go. You're gonna be fine.
Check that out.
You sent order to him?
Check the status. No idea. Check.
They're going to give me the wrong order.
Look at that Sandra them here, the camper.
Pardon?
Sandra, I need to sit.
Good evening, all. Welcome to another edition of Conversations for Progress. We thank you all for turning out this evening in the St. Johnson's Village. I have that right this week. And we're going to invite you now to stand as we invoke the presence of the Lord to guide our conversation this evening. And we'll remain standing following for the national anthem. We'd like to thank Ms. Vincia Herbert for invoking the Lord's Prayer. If you could all stand, thank you so much.
Good evening, and I'll ask everyone to just join me as I lead in the Our Father prayer. The Lord's Prayer, sorry. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you.
Please remain standing. The national anthem will be sung now. Thank you so much.
Glory, no
Please be seated. Thank you so much. I never tire of hearing the national anthem of St. Kitts-Nevis. For those of you who are on the outside, as always, I invite you to come and have a seat. We have lots of space still in here for you to join us and participate in our conversation this evening. With me tonight, Dr. Henry Brown, QC. He is here to speak with us, and I'm just on the issue of constitutional reform. This is something that there's been great debate about, great conversation about, and we're going to try and carry on that conversation this evening. We're also joined by Minister of Health, the Honorable Marcella Liburd. She's here to speak with us specifically concerning her portfolio as it relates to health matters tonight, and we're going to get some update on what is happening with our healthcare system in St. Kitts and Nevis. I know we're really all very interested in that as well. The Right Honourable Dr. Denzel Douglas, he'll come in a bit later, and he's going to address the whole issue of the St. Kitts-Nevis debt and that of fiscal reform in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so we have a full agenda to cover this evening. Of course, we're going to have you give your contribution to our conversation tonight. We have the microphone here. As always, you can send your emails into Talk for Progress. And we also have our text messaging and WhatsApp facility up. You can send your texts and WhatsApp messages to 869-762-3342. I'd like to say a very good evening to the West. We have Congress Maynard here with us. Of course, we have Dr. Narjan Wilson. I got it right this week as well. I'm getting everything right. And I'm seeing so many others joining us here this evening. We have some people with us from Antigua as well, one of my homeland men, former Minister of Government there, Mr. Hilroy Humphreys. Welcome to our conversation this evening, sir. Officer for on ZIZ Radio and Freedom FM, so we say a special good night to them also, and to www.copm.com. At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Henry to have a conversation with us and to share with us his knowledge and experience as a Queen's Counsel on the whole question of constitutional reform. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause.
Comrades, good evening. Good evening. As I interacted this evening and coming to this building for the first time, it has a warmth about it which reaches the inner man. It's a spanking new building. And in keeping with that, you have a spanking new candidate. But more than that, ultimately, a spanking new representative. God is good. All the time. I recognize the Minister responsible for health and, of course, Madam Chair. I recognize Comrade Stanley Franks of ancient origin. I recognize young candidate Conrys Maynard. Let them see you again, Conrys. He's a young man of remarkable pedigree. His mother is from Nevis, and that is significant. I recognize the Honorable Minister of Education, Nigel Carty, the candidate for number 5, Dr. Wilson, and I can't leave out Mr. Hilroy Humphreys, the chairman of our brother Labour Party in Antigua. And I have a small contingent from Nevis, Ophelius and Rose. Yon Evitt, and Idona Brown. Comrades, the time has come, the walrus said, to speak of many things, of shops and ships and sealing wax, of cabbages and kings. Lewis Carroll, Alice in the Wonderland. But we are not in the Wonderland. We are on the road to heart to gain victory. Labour is not in any second place. The Lord has worked in mysterious ways, and we have the Prime Minister. Good night, Prime Minister. The current Prime Minister has come, so he's taken a little burden off of me. I wouldn't have to speak for the 2 minutes I intended to. Long way, and in these conversations for progress, we have touched upon so far a myriad of things. But the Prime Minister, who is always cool, fundamentally deliberative, in his wisdom, has properly decided that after a generation and 1 year of independence, it is necessary to stop the talk and do something by visiting the Constitution and see where we can iron out its kinks and improve upon its provisions so that we in this young democratic nation can better appreciate a civilized life consistent with the bouncing economy that he has overviewed and put into place. One cannot lag behind the other. Improvement in civilization and democratic ideals are consistent with the vast economic vertical movement this country has experienced for the past 18 years. It is a little short of miraculous that after the meltdown in the global economy, that St. Christopher and Nevis can stand, as it were, in economic terms, like a shining city on a hill. And we must give thanks to this government, spearheaded by the Prime Minister. I'll come to the topic in a moment. That is a consideration you have to bear in mind when you go to your polls and speak to your neighbors. There's a lot of talk. We call it waffle. In polite company, we call it offal. Look it up. But the recurring question has been, is, and will continue to be, what would the other side, some call it construct, some call it even concoction. I heard a lady say the concussion. Well, what do they offer? What do they offer? What is it you can single out and determine in your mind that they offer you a better way of life? I had a grandmother, they call her Cook, very black. And she used to say, Henry, a bud in the hand is what chewing the leaves. Be conscious of that. Do not fritter away your patrimony and your future and that of your children's children by mere old talk which stems from personal grudge. I wouldn't make a political speech tonight, more of that. The St. Christopher and Nevis Constitution came into full operation on 19th September 1983 when the federal state of St. Christopher and Nevis with full sovereignty was born. The Constitution is, as it were, the birth certificate. The Constitution is unique in its makeup. There are two orders of government. One, the St. Christopher and Nevis government, and the Nevis Island Administration, which is effectively an emanation of the Crown. The Constitution is informed by the Westminster model applicable to the two orders of government. Immediately flowing out of that is a proclivity for duplication of scarce resources, informed more or less by the separation clause, section 113, which can be invoked by the Nevis Island legislature at any time. I say there's a duplication of resources. I'll give you two examples. One, it might have been a good thing if that separation clause was not in the Constitution and both the peoples of St. Kitts and Nevis recognize and accept that they are married for life. Then they would sit down around the table and decide, well, there's really no need to have two international airports. It doesn't make good economic sense. It doesn't make good economic sense to have, at this stage, two deep water harbors. There could have been an accommodation where jointly it was decided that the international airport is more suited from St. Kitts because of the topography and terrain and the infrastructure they have here. And the deep water port might be more suited for Nevis. In that way, you'll have a constant plying of traffic and cargo between the two islands. And by the same token, you'll be focusing on developing more fully the international airport you have to man, 56,000 people? And accommodate tourists who come in. But because of the inbuilt separatism in the Constitution and the too often call for secession, loudly and or quietly, we miss the goal. We are cutting off our noses and spoiling our faces. The Nevis electorate and the Assembly can unilaterally dismember the Federation by a majority, 2/3 vote for secession of Nevis from St. Christopher and Nevis. The time has come for St. Christopher and Nevis as a whole to have a new look at this section 113 clause. It is a recipe for disaster and political instability and economic downfall. We must eschew it. We must get away from it. And when you go to the polls, you will be putting an X for us to revisit that 113 clause so that the country can have a platform from which to proceed as a whole in political stability. It is not a good thing for foreign investors to be hearing ever so often that Nevis might secede from St. Kitts. It is not a good thing for families in Nevis, not a good thing for families in St. Kitts. So we as a people will have to revisit that clause. After 31 years of independence, it seems to me that this clause is nothing but a wedge between closer affinity of the two islands. It is time for reform. Although it is perhaps good that there are two legislatures, that of St. Christopher and Nevis and that of Nevis only, it may be time to reconsider the value of members of the Nevis Island having the capacity, that is the eligibility, to be members of the two legislatures, one and at the same time. The situation may again arise where a member of the Nevis cabinet may hold a like post in the cabinet of St. Christopher and Nevis, and having to take 2 oaths of secrecy and obliged to hold or adopt conflicting positions as between St. Christopher and Nevis as a unit of the Federation and Nevis as the other unit. Through that, maybe consideration could also be given where the electorate of St. Kitts vote for a St. Kitts government and the electorate of Nevis for a Nevis government, thus establishing 2 distinct orders of government supreme in their own spheres. A Nevis government voted into office by those who are qualified to vote in Nevis, and the St. Kitts government voted by those who are qualified to vote in St. Kitts. You can't vote in St. Kitts and Nevis one at the same time. These are just postulates or proposals which come to mind. When that is done, because of the nature of our historical makeup, it is almost axiomatic that you'll have to have some form of federal structure. But the federal structure should be so made up that even though it overarches the local government of Nevis and the local government of St. Kitts, it is not all powerful. It should have slim powers of authority, clearly defined taxing areas, and be responsible for what we can do best jointly: prison, police, the judiciary, some areas of customs. But these are matters which would have to be thrashed out very carefully, because we don't want one order of government to shortchange the other order of government. We don't want a situation where when something happens in St. Kitts, it is so fanciful and nice to blame the Prime Minister in St. Kitts. We will know what the rules are and how we approach any problem which arises, because there would be a formula for it in the Constitution. And where the formula is erected, Parliament, of course, St. Kitts and Nevis, together can fill in the sinews to determine how the matter ought to be determined. The federal government, as I said before, should be slim, limited powers of taxation, the sole authority to enter into international treaties, international conventions, and the administrative effectiveness and good sense would dictate, as I indicated before, that the federal government should be in charge of the police, ports, telecommunications, and the like. Let me stress, comrades, that any new constitution or reform should take on board the good sense proposition that all elections, be they local, be they federal, should be held on the same day. I think we have too many elections in the country. For the avoidance of doubt, let me say, I am not advocating that there be no elections. I am saying that there should be elections, but we can craft the necessary structure, whereas you vote for government in Nevis, a government in St. Kitts, or as it stands, a government for St. Christopher and Nevis and a government for Nevis on the same day. Take, for example, Nevis just had local elections. That has hardly finished when they're on the road again campaigning for federal elections. It is divisive. It doesn't help. It doesn't assist. So no small wonder that after 18 to 19 months, I don't want to be controversial, we see nothing being done in Nevis. Because the politicians are busy campaigning to unseat the government in St. Christopher and Nevis. An issue which is outside of their remit, if you're to bring common sense to bear on the scenario as a whole. Rather than focus in developing Nevis, they're focusing on overthrowing the Prime Minister. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So Nevis is busy standing up or moving backwards. And the more the Prime Minister moves upwards, the more blood pressure over. It makes no sense. And so serious consideration must be given to that in the scheme of things. Comrades, in the Constitution, there's a clause. I don't have it at my fingertip now, but we call it the Bryant Clause. Mr. Bryant was a young man who came here as a young man, grew up in St. Kitts, did all for St. Kitts. All he could do, he did. It is not out of accident or by some mishap that the college is named after him. He did yeoman's service in this country. But in 1982, at the Constitutional Conference at Marlborough House in England, the then government, under the Right Honourable Prime Minister Simmons and his group, insisted that there should be a clause in the Constitution that if none of your parents was born in St. Kitts or Nevis, and you yourself was not born in St. Kitts, you can't run for elections. My postulate is, once you are a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis and qualified to vote under the requirements and guidelines mandated by the Constitution, you have let your bucket down here. No one or anybody should stop you from offering yourself as a candidate. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis are sufficiently intellectually versatile to know when they have a good man or woman amongst them who can contribute significantly to the patrimony of the country. And it should be left to the people and not by some instrument to have them sidelined. There has been talk the Prime Minister should only serve 2 terms. Soon they will tell you a Labour government must only serve one term. The basis of that myopic proposition is simply because they know it is virtually impossible for them to unseat the Prime Minister or remove the Labour government by democratic means. So the way they want to deal with that is, let's put in the Constitution, he can only be there for 2 terms. But that is a funny thing. The people must know how many terms they want him there for. If you don't want him there, go out and vote for him. Don't vote for him. What you're going to put it in a book for? If a man is doing good, why you want to change him? To suit your purpose? So these are things we have to think about. And let no man fool us and say, he there too long. Why he don't give up? Give up what? If a man is winning his seat, why you want him to give up the seat he is willing to give one who can't win it? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. I'll soon be finished. Comrades, the vote of no confidence. When we were at Marlborough House in 1982, the Labour representatives agreed that the clause speaking to a vote of no confidence should be put into the Constitution. When we said, but we have to have rules and regulations as to how to work that clause, they said, no. We could work that out when we got out. When at Marlborough House we were saying that there must be a constitutional provision where there must be a standing committee to deal with integrity in public life. The other side said, no, we don't want that. And one member of the government team said, let me tell you, if the people want to elect a scamp, let them elect a scamp. Now it's coming to haunt them. They said that. And that is one of the reasons why we didn't sign the constitutional report. Our names are there, but you wouldn't see our signatures. Because we disagreed with that. We broke lines with the government on the issue of the no confidence clause. But the government then reacted that way because by the time we were in London in 1982, there had been 2 motions of no confidence placed on the order paper, but never debated. So don't boil to me. Don't boil to me. It is good sometimes that we look back. We don't dwell in the past. But sometimes the past informs the present. Don't look back. They crafted that constitution, unique in the history of the world, to suit themselves. And when you say, well, look, man, you can't put this in the Constitution, or you have left that out, or leave it, we will work it out. NRP and PAM will work it out. They were not dealing or crafting a constitution for posterity. And that is why, now that we have seen the ups and downs and workings of the Constitution, I think we are on a good perch to remedy its kinks and imbalances. There's a formula in the Constitution which speaks to finance. But there are some people who say Nevis money is going down to St. Kitts. Well, that could be true. Nevis money is going down to St. Kitts to add up with the money in St. Kitts so that they could get a bigger share. Simple maths. Simple maths. Under this government, the arrangement was so worked out that the Nevis government got far more in taxes. But they told the people of Nevis that St. Kitts is robbing them. And now they work out the maths and say they want to have nothing to do with St. Kitts with the taxes. They say, well, we didn't know it's how it goes. Well, look before you leap. And the Prime Minister has been gracious and very statesmanlike to lend a helping hand to that part of the Federation which he oversees as Prime Minister. They accept his help whenever they ask. And permit me to say in brackets quietly, even though some people told him to do otherwise, to ignore them, he said, no, I am the Prime Minister of St. Kitts-Nevis, we are one. How many mortal men would suffer the calumny and abuse for helping and continues to do so? The only reason he's doing that is because, like Marcella and me, he's supposed to be a member of the Pilgrim Holiness Church. Amen, church? Amen. We're people of God. And so, at the appropriate time, we'll have more discussions on the Constitution, when we can go through more definitively the several chapters in the Constitution, so as to highlight where the provisions of the Constitution could be improved. I don't want to go through them tonight. I will speak for far too long. And the night is rushing ahead. And I have court at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I wish to hear the Prime Minister after Marcella. And then I go to my bunk. Thanks for coming.
And we thank you, Dr. Henry Brown, Queen's Counsel. We see why you are very learned, level-headed, and he gave us some really good points to mull over and consider. Because on elections day, whenever these issues come about, you're the ones who'll be making these very critical decisions when you put your X in the box. And please don't make it touch the sides. We don't want any spoiled ballots. At this point in time, I'd like you to put your hands together and give a warm welcome to our Minister of Health, who is doing a very good job. It's not an easy job at all, but she's doing an incredible job, and she's making us very proud here. And we want to know her plans and her government's plans for St. Kitts and Nevis moving forward in respect of healthcare. Honorable Marcella Liebert.
Thank you, Ebony. Dr. Henry Stagumba Brown, QC. Honorable Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say good evening to our listening audience and to our viewing audience and to persons at home and in the diaspora. Tonight, I want to take a look at health in St. Kitts-Nevis. I think it comes at a good time, and I'm happy that I have the opportunity to do this at a time when we are still celebrating our independence under the theme, A Nation on the Move, Celebrating Our Progress. Because I want to say to you that health care is on the move. And I'll show you that we have much to celebrate in health care. Before I do that, though, I want to extend condolences to the family of Andrea Bory of Upper Market Street, who passed, I think, what today is? Sometime last week, on Monday, passed on Monday. Andrea Bory, as you know, was a nurse at one point in time, and so we want to extend our condolences to the Bory family. We in St. Kitts-Nevis, we offer quality health care in the Federation with highly trained health workers at all levels. The number of doctors and trained nurses and other health care providers has increased significantly. You only have to look around and you would see how many doctors we have of all sorts, local doctors. CFBC, the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College, has started this semester in August a Bachelor of Science degree in nursing, a 4-year program that would train our nurses, and they will become graduates with a Bachelor in Science accredited by the University of the West Indies at no cost to them. Good government. So here you have nurses who would be trained to enhance the care that we deliver, and the government will underwrite the costs because health care is so important to us. This is something that just started in August last month. I want to say thanks to the Minister of Education as well, who took part in this. I understand that 16 nurses are currently enrolled in the program, and I know that as it goes on, we'll see more and more nurses enrolling. You can stay right here in St. Kitts-Nevis and get a Bachelor of Science degree in nursing. Our staff at the JNF, we have a training staff at the JNF, they're doing an excellent job. They trained 29 PEP workers, and I want you to understand that. 29 PEP workers, because we hear that all PEP workers do is cut grass, as though there's nothing wrong with cutting grass. But 29 PEP workers were trained as nursing attendants, 2 of whom were males. Those young men made history. For the first time, we're having male attendants at the hospital. Our training staff also upgraded the training of our home care officers. They're trained in geriatrics because they deal with the elderly in our communities. And 3 PEP workers were among that training class, 1 of whom topped the class out of the PEP program. I want to congratulate those senior nurses involved in these training exercises and thank them for their dedication and insistence on high quality. And we have the principal nursing officer here with us, Henrietta Douglas. Give her a round of applause. Thank you. Now, what I'm going to say to you in terms of the progress that we are making and have made in health, these are things that happened since 2010. I want you to understand this. I'm not talking about 10 years ago. I'm talking about since 2010. We're now in 2014. We have had the upgrade of the X-ray unit at the Joseph M. France Hospital. at a cost of EC $116,000. We have gone from analog to digital. Of course, we are moving on in every way. So we have moved from the use of films for X-ray processing to a more efficient digital workstation. This enhances radiological imaging, thus producing better results for our customers and patients. And right now, patients can now request copies of their images on a CD at a minimal cost as a result. We have seen the upgrade of the pathology lab at a cost of $450,000 EC since 2010, I'm telling you about. We purchased 2 analyzers, a chemistry analyzer and a Cobas analyzer. These pieces of lab equipment have drastically improved the turnaround time of patients' results. And in the case of the Cobas analyzer, this offers a series of testing platforms which were previously sent to a reference lab in Barbados. So we no longer send them to Barbados, for we have the relevant equipment here to deal with that. It also allows monitoring of our diabetic patients here in St. Kitts. As part of our women's health program as well, we will be resuming mammograms next week. We had an issue with the machine, it's now corrected, and so as of next week, women can now again get mammograms at JNF at a much reduced cost, much less than you would pay at a private institution. So I want to announce that. Our intensive care unit has been expanded from a 4-bed to a 6-bed unit. This allows for safely nursing critically ill patients who also need to be in isolation. Provision was also made for an area to treat hemodialysis patients who may be critically ill and also requires intensive care treatment. All of this since 2010. In January, we installed a new CT scan, a very modern CT scan. And currently, we are having discussions to start MRI with 2 different providers. The upgrade, we also upgraded the kitchen area at a cost of $185,000 EC. We had food trolleys and accessories, stoves, chillers, ice maker, all purchased, and then we repaired and repainted the roof of the kitchen. I want to say, however, that major repairs for the kitchen is on the books for 2015. We have installed a new incinerator at a cost of $90,000 EC. A new and modern incinerator to improve the system of hospital waste disposal. The building of the house, the building to house the incinerator was donated by Windsor University, and we want to thank them here and now for that. I'm sure the people in constituency 3, and particularly the Buckley's area, would be happy to hear this, because this new incinerator is environmentally friendly, and so it reduces any sort of pollution to the environment. We also opened our hemodialysis unit. This, of course, helps persons suffering from renal conditions and improve their quality of life. It reduces costs as persons previously had to travel overseas for hemodialysis before this. It also allows them to stay close to their families. We have also seen the upgrade of the eye clinic, peritoneal dialysis unit, which expanded to 4 rooms. We had a digital EKG system installed, thanks to Dr. Cameron Wilkinson and Windsor University, who provided the funding for this. We also upgraded the mortuary at a cost of $184,000. We had 20 vital signs machines at a cost of $136,000 bought in. These machines measures and displays heart rate, breathing rate, blood pressure on a computer screen. If anything abnormal shows up, usually a sound will be heard, which would alert the nurse that the patient's condition may be changing. That's how very modern they are. We also had neonatal equipment at the cost of US $100,000, including intensive care infant incubators, infant ventilator with humidifier, and neonatal phototherapy lamp. And then we are about to launch our hospital information system. We are shifting the hospital, of course, to being completely digital. We're doing it in a phased way, and we have gone quite a long way in doing that. And so we want to thank the Republic of China and Taiwan for their assistance working with us on this, where they invested over US $650,000 in this hospital information system. Also thanks to Minister Glenn Phillip, because we had to work with his ministry in ICT in order to get this done. Currently, we are upgrading our registration, assessment, billing and collection systems. What we'll have shortly is the introduction of identification cards, which will be given to all who access our healthcare system. My understanding is that once you provide the information, you will get your card in 36 seconds. You would see a barcode on it, and so all the relevant information will be there. So that when you go to the hospital, all you have to do is scan the barcode, and all the information will become readily available. No longer do we have to go through all these records in order to get your information, because everyone would have an identification card with all the information of this. This, of course, will reduce and eliminate duplication, reduce waiting time. It will be easier for the retrieval of records and increase security of medical information. Currently, those of you who are aware would also know that we are doing major repairs right now to JNF, to the roof and to other areas. So surgical and medical wards are currently temporarily moved because of the repairs we are doing there. And I want to thank the staff and the general public for their understanding in the circumstances as we try to do major repairs to Joseph M. France General Hospital. I want to let you know that part of the contract with respect to the repairs includes security cameras. So at the end, once it's done, security cameras will also be installed. We have also been, for some time now, discussing the upgrade of security and started to implement some of it. For example, we are trained our orderlies, and our orderlies, and many of our orderlies are now trained as security officers at this constables, special constables at this particular point in time in an effort to beef up and upgrade our security. We are all aware that we had an unfortunate incident at the Joseph M. France Hospital on Monday evening, and I want to extend condolences to the family of the young man who succumbed to his injuries at that time. I want to say that I went to the hospital on that evening and was able to ensure that everything remained calm in the midst of all of that was going on there. And I want to really commend the staff who was working at the time, who continued to work at a very high level almost immediately after this incident took place. I want to really commend them, and I want you to give them a round of applause. We immediately got together and decided that we have to implement some things immediately. And so one of the things we did was to provide counseling to all who were traumatized, staff and patients. That took place Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock. And then we had an emergency meeting, high-level emergency meeting with hospital management and top-level national security. Out of that meeting, we decided to do some things immediately, some including 24/7 increased security, 24-hour and 24/7 increased security at the Joseph M. France General Hospital. We also would have the installation of some cameras even before the cameras I told you about with respect to the roof and the repairs will be installed in another week or so at the Joseph M. France General Hospital. Also, we have a visitor policy which we had relaxed. We are going to have to make sure that our visitor policy is strictly adhered to. This includes giving visitors color-coded visitor cards. That means that each ward would have a color code. So if you're going to see somebody in surgical, you get the color for surgical, and you cannot go to any other ward other than surgical. You have to stick to your color codes in there. Right? So you don't have people sort of traipsing around the hospital going, you got to see one person, you're walking all over. So we will have that color-coded policy implemented. Also, hours. You can go and stay all the time. Also, we'll be limiting the number of visitors that can see one patient. We'll, however, be making allowance for family members, as we always do, especially of critically ill patients. The orderlies will ensure that the visitors leave at the end of the visiting hours. We are also implementing other measures in the short term and in the long term. I want to say here that we sometimes don't know what we have, because I believe that our accident and emergency room is probably the only one where you can go to free of cost. We had a gentleman who came here for some sort of conference, and something happened to him and they took him there. And when he was finished, he was taking out his wallet to pay. And they said, no, there is no pay. People, you don't pay when you go to accident and emergency. Even in Nevis, you have to pay. You can go to accident and emergency in Nevis and don't pay. Here in St. Kitts, you don't pay for accident and emergency. And we need to appreciate what we have. I also want to say to our CARICOM brothers and those from the Dominican Republic, because I heard some talk earlier, that the rates that they are charged when they go to the hospital are the same rates as locals. We have a policy on that. And so if you're hearing anything different, you can go to the administration office and try to get whatever error corrected. But we have a policy that our CARICOM brothers and sisters and persons from the Dominican Republic, they pay the same rates at the hospital as locals. I want to make that abundantly clear. On the community level, we have 11 health centers in St. Kitts, as you know, and 6 in Nevis. In our health centers here, you have free treatment. You don't pay to go to our health centers. For the ladies, you have free pap smears. Make use of it. Free pap smears at our health centers. Vaccinations, breast and prostate health, dental health, and of course, child care. That's ongoing. Our health centers are accessible to all and affordable. Since 2010, we have built a new health center in Old Road, brand new health center in Old Road. One of the main features of it is that it's accessible to persons living with disabilities. We always try to ensure in it, take that in so that no one can be left behind. We will be building a new health center in Tabernacle. The funds for that hospital is already obtained, for that health center, is already obtained. We have just completed an audit of all our health centers in St. Kitts. The audit was with a view towards upgrading the equipment and the infrastructure of the health centers. So we now have an audit. So for example, the dental clinic at Newtown will be upgraded just as the one in Sandy Point, Paxton is. And while I'm on Paxton, Paxton, as you know, has been upgraded since 2010 to be a smart hospital or green hospital, the only one that I'm aware of in the OECS. Right? Mary Child's Hospital will be built along the lines of Paxton. That is also on the books, in the makings, where you will have everything coming together under one roof, the hospital, the clinic, and our environmental office, all housed under one roof. 4 public health nurses have recently completed degrees in public health. They then will be able to assist us in the delivery of improved health care at the community level, and we want to commend them on the completion of their degrees. We are also pursuing a mobile health unit to improve our ability to carry out screenings throughout the country. We do lots of screenings, but as you know, we have to put up a tent, take it down, put it back up, and so on. So we are pursuing a mobile health unit that will be there as a sort of mobile hospital for screenings of all our people throughout the country. As regards chikungunya, I want to report that the cases of chikungunya have leveled off. It is well managed, and the few serious cases that we have are of those persons who have other conditions like high blood pressure and diabetes that are not properly managed. So if you have high blood pressure that's out of control or diabetes that's not properly managed and you get chikungunya, you'll have a serious problem. And that is what we are seeing. But in terms of chikungunya, generally, that has leveled off and properly managed by our hospital personnel. Ebola, the surveillance team, they have met with all of the relevant institutions here in St. Kitts, including Homeland Security, the universities, ANC Port Authority, and protocols have been put in place. Example, all persons arriving from at-risk countries will have to have an exit card coming from the exit country, and on arrival will also have to go through some testing by a nurse that will be stationed at our port health at the airport. This is really in keeping with CARPHA's recommendation for all of the countries in preventing Ebola, because we are big into prevention. Prevention, as you know, is far better than cure. I want to say that the Caribbean is still designated a low-risk area for Ebola, and I don't know of any Caribbean country where there is a case of Ebola at the moment. I also want to make it abundantly clear that this is not in an effort for stigma and discrimination of anyone at all, but totally on the end of prevention. Insurance. As you are aware, since 2010, we have upgraded the insurance of all government employees, all. Much more expanded insurance for all government employees. And soon, we'll have our national health scheme for persons who are on social services program and those who are working for minimum wage. This is going to be a phased system, and we'll soon be taking a submission to Cabinet for the implementation of our national health scheme. The package will include dental, eye, surgery, annual checkups, because we are big at prevention, pregnancy, all of this will be included. The long-term goal of the ministry, however, is universal health insurance, where there's insurance for all. But this is the long-term goal of the Ministry of Health. Our focus, as I said, is on prevention. In this way, we will be able to reduce health costs and produce a more productive workforce. The high-quality health that we deliver is in large measure attributable to our efficient waste collection system. Thanks to Mr. Alfonso Bridgewater and all those persons at solid waste, our potable water, proper housing, and environmental health. And so I want to commend the Parks and Beaches unit for the excellent work that they do in this regard. Give them a round of applause. We must never underestimate the importance of their job. We commend them highly. They assist us greatly in health and in our tourism product. Those who clean the streets must also be commended. I'm sure you know after any big event, the next day you go down, you wonder where was the event, because the streets are clean by all those persons who come out to clean our streets and so assist us in the prevention of diseases. The ministry's slogan is Fit and Healthy Nation. Fit and Healthy Nation. I encourage us all, therefore, to recognize that health begins with each and every one of us. Health begins with you and me. You have to look after yourself. It's critical. Very often we wait until these things are advanced, and then is when we are going to look after them. Go for your checks, prevention, healthy eating and regular exercise, not engaging in risky behavior, and of course, being our brothers' keepers and sisters' keepers by not settling scores in a violent manner will all ensure that we live longer, healthier lives. I want to pause at this particular point in time and to say that we in health, since 2010, as you can see, have done quite a lot to enhance and upgrade delivery of healthcare in the Federation of St. Kitts-Nevis. And it will take us all day and all night to tell you all that we've done. We just dealt with those that we think were most critical. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Marcella Lai. But clearly, this is a woman who is not sleeping on the job. You have a government that's working hard to ensure that they have a healthy nation. Give her a round of applause for that. At this time, I'd like to welcome our Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas, the man who is at the helm overseeing all of this. And last week at Conversations, he said you have a government with a vision. And this is clearly the case. None of this is random. It's not ad hoc. It's not just thrown together. It's well planned. It's well coordinated. And he has a team of men and a woman around him who are capable of doing the job that needs to get done. So we'll hear the Prime Minister now give his remarks as he does weekly, and also this evening he's going to address the whole issue of fiscal reform and debt management for St. Kitts and Nevis. Ladies and gentlemen, the Right Honourable Prime Minister, Dr. Denzil Douglas.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brandon. I want to recognize my colleagues here at the head table, the Honorable Marcella Liebert, our Minister of Health, Community and Social Development and Gender and Culture, and of course our Queen's Counsel, the learned Dr. Henry Brown, who have shared with you this evening government's priorities, objectives, and positions as they pertain to key elements of governance, health, our Constitution, and I would like at the end of this all to speak also on the matters of finance. It should be very clear from the presentation of our Minister of Health, the Honorable Marcella Liebert, that prevention of illness, attaining and maintaining a state of wellness is of utmost importance to us as a government and, of course, as a people. The healthcare centers that we have constructed throughout our federation, the training that we have provided for our healthcare practitioners, our investment in a range of advanced equipment that was designed to enhance our hospital staff in making accurate diagnoses and prescribing appropriate courses of action, they all speak to our understanding of the interplay between a healthy population and a productive society. Over and above that, however, I wish to remind us that we are a small and intimate society, and it is important to us to be able to provide the type of medical care and create the type of psychological ease that we all need when there is pain or illness that we do not clearly understand. Minister Liebert has spoken about the comprehensive health insurance program that our government has already begun putting in place, a program that provides psychiatric, surgical, vision, obstetrical, dental, and specialized overseas care, and every form of health care that we do know about. As you know, this nationwide program is being implemented in phases. The first phase covered those Kittitians and Nevisians whose work benefits the country as a whole: our police officers, our nurses, our firemen, our customs and immigration officers, our sanitation workers, our air traffic controllers, and other government employees. The group whose coverage is now being worked on is comprised of those individuals in our community who are currently on public assistance. And we shall continue incorporating various groups within our society until the entire federation is covered. And why did the government do this? You must be asking yourselves. Firstly, because we want the men, women, and children of this country to be able to see a doctor when they are ill. Or even more importantly, we want the men, women, and children to get in the habit of having annual checkups, even when they feel perfectly healthy. In addition to this, however, we know that in countries all over the world, major illnesses have caused families to lose their savings, lose their homes, forced into selling whatever possessions they may have. And so we here in St. Kitts-Nevis are determined to shield the people of St. Kitts-Nevis from this particular fate. We all saw what a ruckus the provision of broad-based health care created in a nation and powerful as large as the United States of America. We, however, we believe and we know that universal health insurance has to be a reality here. And that is why it has been embraced by my government and why on a phased basis it is already being implemented nationwide. At this point, I would like to echo what has been said before regarding the utterly unconscionable attack that took place at our Joseph and France General Hospital just a few days ago. Minister Liebert has already made plain the actions that will be taken by the Ministry of Health and the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force. I now simply urge every man, woman, and child to realize that these individuals absolutely, positively, cannot be allowed to be walking the streets of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so now more than ever before, the community and the police, the people and the police must act as one. And I want to urge that whenever those who would have committed such criminal act are caught, and I'm sure they will soon be caught, they must be subjected to psychiatric evaluation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to finances, the state of our economy. Our financial secretary just presented a comprehensive account on where we are as a country and where we are headed. Permit me to stress, however, that the ability to understand and manage finances is one area in which many individuals and many nations fail. All across the world, there are individuals who make tremendous amounts of money, but who end up being penniless because they do not understand the complexities and the intricacies of financial management. Similarly, there are nations on every continent with an abundance of minerals and other resources, countries through whose treasuries, millions flow, but whose economies are in a state of utter disarray. Mindful of this, my government has been meticulous in the selection and retention of Ministry of Finance staff. And what this adherence to the very highest standards of expertise and performance has resulted in is a nation that is really quite tiny, a nation which one would expect to suffer the greatest trauma during a global economic crisis, but instead being able to maintain a steady course, produce rates of economic growth that exceed those of one's neighbors and indeed much of the world. This adherence to the very highest standards has enabled our country to bring its debt dramatically down to half its original level, in fact. It has enabled us to no longer need to use an overdraft and to produce account surpluses. More important than the mere listing of these accomplishments, however, is the fact that this caliber of financial and economic management is not an everyday occurrence. The success that our country has had in earning one positive IMF report after another is not something that we should take for granted. The respect that our country has earned in international financial circles is not something that is our birthright, not something that will always be ours just because. Instead, it is a direct result of this government's special skills, special expertise, and special capabilities. And we have to remember that, because we have no interest in persons with views that are not as informed, skills that are not as developed, reputations that are non-existent, and capabilities that are shaky at best, upsetting and sending off the rails all that this government, your government, has worked so hard and with such great success to build. As someone said yesterday in my call-in program, asked the Prime Minister, if it is not broke, don't fix it. When a country's economy is gone, so does everything. We cannot ever afford to forget. Who is at the helm of a country's government then matters, and it matters tremendously. Our Constitution was drafted, I should say, some 31 years ago, as you've heard Dr. Brown say. We have attempted to invite and to initiate talks as to how it might be best amended to better serve the needs of our nation. But those who say that they wish to lead this country have steadfastly refused to enter into this important and urgently needed process. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons they most vehemently refused to work with the government on this particular subject, they said, was that they had no intention of ever working with the person who had been tasked with moving this forward, this particular initiative forward. That person was the Honorable Sam Terence Conda. The opposition had said they will not work with him. This, in a nutshell, is the government's position. The public needs to engage, after some 31 years, in a serious discussion regarding the provisions of our current constitution. There needs to be meaningful and vigorous debate so that together we might chart the way forward for this country that means so much to us. Should the Queen of England remain our head of state is a fundamental question maybe to be answered. Should parliamentarians elected as a result of the reputation and support of one political party be able to just simply switch to another party without first resigning his or her seat? Another fundamental question. Should there be limits on how long parliamentarians can serve? Does our having one government for St. Kitts and Nevis and another for Nevis the best arrangement under which our two islands can coexist? And Dr. Henry Brown a moment ago outlined some of the difficulties with this present arrangement. These and many questions, too numerous to mention here, must be explored. And they must be explored by us all, and by every political party that is serious about the future of this, our progressive country. In the meantime, we must abide by the Constitution as it now exists. And that Constitution says that having one constituency with some 6,000 constituents and another with some 2,000 is not good for our democracy at all and cannot be tolerated. But when we try to fix it, there are some who have refused to allow us to fix it. Indeed, international observers have urged that this imbalance be corrected as well. In addition, this iniquity is grossly unfair both to those who are attempting to be elected as well as to those who actually are already elected. This, therefore, we must fix. But what we really want this evening is to hear from you. We have in our midst a number of candidates who will be contesting our next elections very shortly. I recognize Dr. Norjan Wilson from constituency number 5. I recognize, of course, Dr. Vance Gilbert from constituency number 7. And I recognize your very own from this constituency, Conwis Maynard. And so this evening, let us hear from you. And so I now turn the proceedings over to our moderator, the one and only Ebony Brandon.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. A round of applause for our Prime Minister, giving a report there as he does week to week on some of the things happening in and around our country, St. Kitts and Nevis, and the way forward for us. Now, the microphone, need to get it set up over here so we can begin. And in the meantime, what I will do is share with you some of the comments which are already beginning to come in. Mr. PM, A Grateful Nation says thank you to you and your government for raising the minimum wage and pensions. It says a lot about your government's commitment to our citizens, all our citizens. And then we have another one directed at Minister Liebert. This one says, Minister Liebert, I live in New York. I was home during the summer and had an emergency. The care I received at JNF was outstanding and the price for the labs, etc. was right. Come New York if you think they're high. That's what that person says. So we're going to go over straight to the candidate for this area, soon to be Honorable Congress Maynard.
Thank you very much. Good night. Good night. How are you feeling? How are you feeling? I want to recognize the presence of the best Prime Minister in the world. The Honorable, the Right Honorable, Dr. Denzel Llewellyn Douglas. And it ain't just me who says so. It's the world who says so. I want to acknowledge the presence of the Royal Lady, the Honorable Marcella Liebert, who is doing an extraordinarily great job in her ministries and for the representation of the good people of constituency number 2. I want to recognize at the head table the learned QC, Dr. Henry Brown. And the enlightening presentation he made this evening with regards to constitutional reform. I would also like to recognize the chair, Miss Ebony Brandon, who does a very wonderful job at the head table. I also want to recognize other ministers here, the Honorable Nigel Carty, Minister responsible for Education and Agriculture and Information. I want to recognize future ministers of government, hailing from constituency number 5, Dr. Narjan Wilson, and from constituency number 7, Dr. Vance Gilbert. We in springtime are ready to serve. We are ready to serve. And we have already started working on behalf of the people of this great nation. We are celebrating Independence 31. And our theme is A Nation on the Move. Celebrating our progress. And we are indeed on the move. What a government we have. What a government we have. That only after a short time, where the rest of the world is yet to really come out of the Great Recession of 2008, we have moved our minimum wage to the highest in the OECS. Where we are able to, the government in a position to forgive the arrears of those people who before SKELEC was formed, to give an ease as we come out of this recession for those people who are struggling. I am proud of my government. Are you proud of your government? I am proud of my government, and I look forward to working in cabinet with the Honorable Prime Minister and his team. What's amazing is that since the departure of Heckle and Jekyll, this government seemed to be working good. So apparently something was broken, and we fix it, and we need to trouble it again. It is not only the nation on the move, but constituency number 3 is on the move. And we will celebrate the progress that we have made in only a few months. I ask you to look in your mind, in your brain, in the newspapers, all around, and look at the last 11 months, what Congress Maynard and Labour has done in constituency number 3. And since somebody got their hands untied, tell me, what have they done? Just think about one thing. Is there a league somewhere? A cricket league? Is there some community activities? Is he helping the people in need? What has happened in the last 11 months where his hands are now not tied? Not a thing. And so this constituency is now on the move. And we are celebrating our progress. We are celebrating the progress of finally a Boyd's playfield in the Boyd's West Farm area. We are celebrating the progress of roads for the people in Buckley's extension. We're celebrating the progress of paved roads in the village. We're celebrating the progress of the painting of the Dr. William Connor Primary School. We're celebrating the progress of lights on the Limekeel playfield. We're celebrating the progress of new groundbreaking for townhouses right here in Lagreet. We're celebrating the progress that more of our people will soon get more land. We are celebrating the progress in constituency number 3. And I am proud to be your representative because I am not sleeping on the job. The Prime Minister is a brave man. The Prime Minister is a brave man. Because when he agreed after this election process said that Congress will be the candidate, he knows what type of person I am. And he knows I will not quit until we get what we want in constituency number 3. And he has done, along with his cabinet, everything to make sure that we in constituency number 3 stay on the move. You now have a voice at the table. I am your voice. You come to me, you now know where you can visit me, or you can call me and I come to your house. I have room and nice seats for you in our brand new constituency office. I did not put down something that can move. I put something that is rooted in stone. Because I am serious about the representation of the people of constituency number 3. If it were temporary, I would put a container on an empty piece of lot and have grass growing taller than the container. But if you look at where we are in something that you can feel comfortable. And you can congregate and you can socialize and you can come and speak with your representative because I am serious. As a young man, it is not an easy decision to take to get into politics. And we considered it, my family and I, my beautiful wife, and now our lovely princess daughter. We thought about it and we knew the sacrifice involved. But we are blessed children of this nation. And the least we can do is offer ourselves for the representation of the good people of this constituency. And I commit to you that that is what I will do as long as I am your representative. And when you go to the polls and you give me your X, I will not take up that X and put it in my back pocket and carry it where you didn't want me to carry it. And that is why it's important when it comes to constitutional reform, that it must not be easy for me as a candidate who was supported on a party ticket to be able to get up overnight because I don't like something the Prime Minister said, or because I'm not friends with a colleague in cabinet, to just be able to take up people's votes and take them over on the other side. That is disrespectful. And I commit that God forbid the day I ever have to leave the St. Kitts-Nevis Labour Party, I commit I will resign my seat before I ever misuse your ex. With respect to constitutional reform, the Constitution must protect against a flimsy motion of no confidence, a make-up motion of no confidence. So made up that the first motion of no confidence that Heckle and Jekyll supported was because of the land for debt deal. That was the main reason. I cannot support Dr. Douglas. He's giving away the patrimony of the good people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Only to now recently put in a new flimsy motion of no confidence without the land for debt deal in it. Trying to deceive the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Well, not while I am here. Not while I am here. Not while I am here to represent the good people of constituency number 3. And so in number 3, Labour is number 1. In number 3, Labour and Congress is number 1. So if you have persons in your homes who are not registered, make sure that they get registered so that we do not lose focus of the prize that we have in the St. Kitts-Nevis Labour Party ruling the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. Go out and get them registered. Make them understand why it is not, if something is not broke, don't fix it. But we can't do it by talking and wearing red shirts and talking and walking around. We can only do it when we drop an X in a box next to Congress, Maynard and Labour in constituency number 3 and every Labour candidate in all 8 constituencies in this great federation of ours. And so tonight, I commend the government for the wonderful job that they're doing. I am really pleased. And I am honored to work alongside them to make this great federation even more great. It is really a pleasure on Monday mornings when we meet and we are discussing how we can help the people of Trafalgar, how we can help the people in Buckley's, how we can help the people in Boyd's. We're not talking about how we're going to pull down somebody, or how we're going to mash up somebody, or how we're going to undercut somebody. We are talking about how we are going to help the good people. And I love when I see my springtime crew, Dr. Vance and Dr. Gilbert and Dr. Drew. We all come with our issues and we demand that we be given our fair share at good representation. And so I want you to put your hands together once more for the good government of St. Kitts and Nevis under the leadership of Dr. Denzil Llewellyn Douglas. Good night and thank you.
Mr. Congress Maynard. Go right ahead, Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown, go right ahead. Go right ahead. The floor is yours.
Well, this is the first time I've seen the comrade behind the microphone. And I am persuaded beyond a peradventure that you are head and shoulders in every respect above those who want to run against.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Brown.
One more thing. Earlier on I said that Comrade Humphreys was the chairman of the Labour Party. I misspoke. He was the campaign, he wants to aggrandize it. I was campaign chairman for the last elections. He wants to tell you that because of him, they won.
Mr. Edinburgh, hold on for me just one moment. Let me remind those of you who are listening on ZIZ and Freedom FM that you can interact with us this evening by emailing us at talkforprogress@gmail.com, and you can send text messages or WhatsApp messages if you prefer to to 869-762-3342. Mr. Austin Edinburgh.
Thank you very much. Good night to the members of the head table. Good night to everyone here. Love you all. But let me say at this point, I love St. Kitts and Nevis more. And so that is what brings me to the microphone. The question of constitutional reform is something that I've been living with for a long time, and I'm happy that it has reached a public discussion from a government forum. And so the first question that I would pose tonight comes in that area, and I would put it to the very learned friend and personal friend, Dr. Henry Stagumba Brown. Doctor, as we look at all of the possibilities, one of the things that plague us is the constituency realignment and the allegations of constituency padding. As we look forward to constitutional discussion and hopefully reform, do you think it's an opportune time, a good time, that we consider on our island proportional representation? I put this forward for consideration because it will remove all of the discussions about who votes where and who they vote for. Because all you got to do, wherever you vote, is vote for the party of your choice. So I would like that to be addressed in your response. Let me make it once at the microphone, so when I go, it would be free for everyone else. We have been speaking about our debt, our national debt. It has been there, it is now down here. But I listened to the Minister of Health and the Minister of Finance and National Security tonight. I listened to the Minister of Health outline a number of initiatives that has been put in at the Joseph and Franz General Hospital. And the emphasis is that a healthy nation is a wealthy nation. It is difficult to ask the people specifically to pay taxes for every single important need in our healthcare. Should we then, as a government, continue to make our people understand that the cost of healthcare is way beyond any national debt that we have had, and certainly way beyond where we are now? But as we look at that, I can't help but bring to you two things that came to my attention as a taxi driver. One is that persons at the Marriott Hotel seem to want to inform guests when they come to our country as visitors that they can just either get the ambulance free of cost or go to our hospital and be attended free of cost. While I do agree that even some services that is not normally provided at the hospital, but rather at the health center, for our visitors should be provided at the hospital, I want to recommend that something be put in place. One, that when you come to our country, you're not paying our taxes. That allows us to have these services. As a visitor, I'm talking about. And you have to be called the ambulance to your hospital, that there is a charge associated with that. Number one. And number two, that persons who expect certain services in their hospitals but don't realize that we provide it at our health centers, and so may go outside of that hours, and I think they should go to the hospital, that they also be a charge for that. I'm talking about persons who are visiting and for some reason need services. I believe that a charge is in order. I know, because when I travel, you don't get free attendance. And that is one thing I would like to recommend. Now, with respect to our national security, Mr. Prime Minister, look at what happened at the hospital. And immediately there's a cost associated with it, because now we have to implement new measures. Fighting crime is an expensive, an extremely expensive proposition. And even after you have found the criminal, prosecuted him, and convicted him, you still have to continue to pay by maintaining him. And so I would like, Mr. Prime Minister, the next time that you address the matter of the national debt, that you point out to the country how expensive it is to maintain our national security. Thank you very much.
Any remarks from the head table on anything that's been said?
You are a scholar with a small s. You read. In your readings, you would have realized that almost every time when people in the opposition cannot take advantage of the first past the post system and take out a government, especially a Labour government, they call for proportional representation. The sister call to that, you will hear it in the constitutional reform talks, that those people who can never present themselves to the electorate will tell you how many individuals should be nominated to the House, to the Senate, to this, because they want to get into the government by the back door. I am a firm believer to rule them. They're wise enough to determine who must rule them. When they're tired of those persons, they vote for a new set. I am not in favor of any proportional representation. Go out there and earn your seat if you believe in democracy and be voted into office by the majority. That's my view. And it's a way of watering down the Labour stronghold, you know. Make no mistake about it. It is the way of diluting the power of the masses through their leaders. Let's resist it.
Thank you so much. Just one comment to read, and then, sir, you can go right ahead to the microphone. I want to say thanks to the government and to the SIDF for the new home ownership program. I'm a young person. I've been afforded the opportunity to own a home under this program. I also want to thank them for starting the roads at Buckley's housing development. Big up the Labour government. Sir, go right ahead for me.
Good night. Good evening. Good night, Mr. Prime Minister. It's always a pleasure seeing you. I just want to say happy independence to all. We had a wonderful time at Warner Park a few days ago. And Mr. Prime Minister, whoever put you in that suit did a good job. You look wonderful. But I just want to say, because of something, something Mr. Maynard said earlier about going out to vote. About a few days ago, or maybe a week ago or so, I went to play golf. And this is for us poor people. And I was in the bathroom taking a rest because I have a little back problem. And two gentlemen of names I wouldn't mention came into the bathroom. Rich business people. And they started to talk politics. Well, when you start to talk politics, Zeke is the cock. And this is for us poor people. You know what? One of them said to the other one, so what do you think about the upcoming elections and government and so forth? And they went on and he said, you know, the government is doing a good job, blah, 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 blah. But since 1995, the poor people have the government. It's time now for the rich people to get theirs. Poor people, they say, since 1995, we have the government. It's time for theirs. You know what they're saying to us? That our Prime Minister, which we all know, understand poor people, and he loves us, so he do everything in our interests. And it's time to move him for them. I came out the bathroom so they could see me. And one of them says, Zeke, what you think? I said to him, I'm Labour. I could never be Pam because there's no more anyhow. And there is nothing called you because there's no unity. There's no T in it. And one of them said to me, Zeke, I hope that when election done, your daughter send for you. Poor people, listen to them. Mr. Pearman, again, I have a brother who lived down in Godwin Gut for 22 years. He living in Godwin Gut. He step out, he work at Marriott, he step out the bus the other day. A lady there telling him to have a letter for him about voting in Godwin Gut. In Challengers, he lived down there for Challengers, Godwin Gut. He lived Godwin Gut, I don't know if it's the same thing. But 22 years he lived there, you know. And they want to carry a letter to him telling me he can't vote down there. Because they're trying to scare us poor people. That's right. Few days ago, I was listening to Freedom FM. And EK was interviewing a gentleman. I was talking about victimization and so forth. And I think he said that he don't think that unity will victimize. Wang he. I have a brother who does some music. And a lady called him last week to ask him about setting up the music system. You know, and about getting a job with her. And before she finished, she asked him who he does support. So the victimization start already. So we poor people must understand. Get you, like Conway say, get your kids and your brothers and your sisters, get them registered because we have to keep Dr. Denzel Douglas in office. We have to. And we must, before I go, when they talk about 2 terms, they're not talking about themselves, you know. They're talking about 2 terms for our Prime Minister. But sir, I know you're about 59 years old, look 30. So what we're going to do, we're going to start the 2 terms for you only. Next election, you're not wanting to return to Marcella. Thank you, good night.
Thank you very much. Go right ahead.
Good evening to everyone. And
we can hear what she's saying. We'd like to have everybody be heard. Thanks so much. Go ahead.
Good evening to everyone, and good evening to the head table, and good evening to our lovely Prime Minister. And our royal lady, the Minister of Health. I just want to say good evening. I just want to say thanks to the government of St. Kitts-Nevis for a job well done. But Minister Leiber, this question is for you. And then I have some comments after. Some years ago, 2004, when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I did the lab test here. And I had to go overseas. And they was asking me they want to know what type of cancer I had, and they wanted the pathology test, the report. I took everything that was given to me. And I heard you talk about the upgrading, which I am so happy and I'm feeling well proud of. Because the health system, as you always say, the nation's health is the nation's wealth. And I'm happy that we are moving in that direction. But what happened when I did get the pathology report, it was handwritten. I tried to explain to the people there back in the USA that at that time, that is how it used to be done. And up to this moment, they did not accept it. So I had to be in back and forth. So I hope, while the upgrading and everything, I hope that part is also upgraded also, because it becomes a problem because they say it is handwritten. So I could not have seen the doctor because of that. And I had everything. So I went back to the doctor with the oncologist, and she said, but they should have, because you didn't just get up off the street, you have all your things there, and they could, but they did not take it. So with that part, I would like to see some improvement in that, because I don't know if it will happen to anybody else, but I know it happened to me. And number two, concerning the security at the hospital, I remember some years ago in St. Croix, they had an incident like that, what took place at our hospital. And from that time, what happened, the beef up the security as we are doing here. But what I saw them do after that, every time anyone approached the hospital, they give them a visitor's tag, as you rightly said, but they have to show an ID. They have to sign a book. Put in the time when you go in and where you are going. And I appreciate that. And I hope that the people does not look at it in the negative way. Because it is for all of us safety. Because so many things going on and we have to secure, everyone has to be secured. And when it comes to the outpatient, that's another thing again, because we take what we have here in St. Kitts for granted. Because when you have to travel outside and go to the hospital, you pay for the very tablet they give you. You have to pay for every time they give you one, you have to pay for it. It is very costly. Even when you go to the emergency room, I'm going to give you, because these are things that I could speak from experience. And as I always tell people, let us appreciate what we have in St. Kitts. I took my grandchild to the emergency room. They did not put him on a ward. He didn't go, and none of the one, neither medical, surgical, none. And when I got that bill was $4,000, and in emergency room it went. So what I am saying here, we have it good at the expense of the government. And we still want to, something ain't broken and we want to mash it up. Let it stay where it is. People who under the sound of my voice, do not vote against this Labour government. If you vote against this Labour government, dog dead with us in this St. Kitts. Because those predators outside there just want to see the back part of the Prime Minister. But the Prime Minister have us, and we're going to carry him till whenever we decide that we don't want him. And we always going to want him. We always going to want him. Even he in or he out, we're going to always want him. So I don't care. They could stop out there and they could bang them out. Who out? And who in? And when the time come, and I'm very serious with this, because sometimes we just talk. But when the time come to go out to vote, I know some of us got people in the house that talk about, oh, we can't get them. But if they can't vote for the Labour Party, let them find their own home. Because it's the Labour, I'm serious, it's the present Labour, it's the Labour Party have us here today. Look at how nice we look. Look at us. And look at it again. The minimum wage has been raised. We get, the best in the OECS, the best in the Caribbean. And we taking this thing lightly? People under the sound of my voice, do not take this thing for granted. Because I'm going to tell you something. Them two again, it had to happen. It had to happen for us to see the real progress in this country. May God bless us all.
Careful. Any reactions? Any reactions at all? Mention. Okay, well,
good night, the Prime Minister, the best in the Caribbean. I love you. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you. Minister Library, you'd like to get in there?
In answer to Vancelin's question,
could we settle down just a little bit?
The position is much better now. Everything is moving towards digital at the hospital. And secondly, with respect to the visitor thing that you spoke about, that is part of what is happening. People will have to sign in, they'll have to show ID. Just I didn't go into all the fine details of it. But that's part of it, and I agree with you. I hope that we let the public's corporation, because on the one hand, you talk about security, you try to implement these things, and people are still upset. And they want to know why they got to sign and why. Let us, if we want to really try and see if we could help the situation, cooperate with the new measures that will be introduced at the GNF. Thank you.
Okay, I've been... They asked me to you. Oh, I hear the difference now too, but I'm too loud. All right, so I guess everybody's hearing me much better. I'm hearing myself better as well. Sir, go right ahead for me.
Members of the head table, ladies and gentlemen, good night. And my special good night to my minister. Take it how you want it. That's my minister. I raised him to support the young lady who just spoke. And one thing I want us to do is not just to show the ID, but to leave the ID. And then when they're leaving the premises, then you give them back the ID. That is one thing. The other thing is that my brother here, Edinburgh, he mentioned services and the charges. Now, I have been to St. Thomas, and I was there for a while. Just like the lady said in St. Croix, every time the ambulance leaves to go and pick up anybody, they have to pay $500 before it leaves. $500. Check it out. Just for the ambulance to go and pick up a patient. Our ambulance leave from Basseterre and they go to the bay and come back and they don't pay anything. And as the lady said, we take everything for granted. So I want us to bear that in mind, as Mr. Edinburgh said. We will not have to charge the locals, but at least persons who come in, they should pay for that service, because when we go out, we really have to pay for that service. So I want you to be cognizant of that. And don't just let them show the ID, but let them leave the ID until they're leaving, and then they collect the ID back. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that. We have another message that came in here. This is a text message. Mr. Prime Minister, you've really moved the country forward. I don't understand when people say they can't see the progress in St. Kitts-Nevis. Remember when crime was at its highest, the national debt, and yeah, the two backstabbers. That's exactly what they said here. The two backstabbers that you had in your party. I know it wasn't easy on your side and on cabinet. You had to stand and have backbone to bring the country back together. And this is what the opposition did not expect. A person who can bring the country to this high level of living and bring up the level of comfort for the people of St. Kitts-Nevis should be greatly lauded. I paraphrase the last part because he got a little bit crazy there, but that's what they're essentially saying. You're doing a good job and they're endorsing your government. All right. So the floor is still... Oh, you're waving. Why not come and tell us something? That's your Prime Minister? All right. Thank you. But you need to come to the mic and say so. Good evening, sir. Go right ahead for me.
Yes, good evening. Good evening to the panelists. Good evening to the best Prime Minister in the world. And I just want to say good evening to my representative, the Honorable Marcella Leibert. As we say, she's royal. And I just want to say good evening to the champ. You know, it's amazing that you have on your glasses tonight and the beards. You had me full. I mean, I would say welcome back. Welcome back to the champion, to to the champion Labour Party, welcome back. Because when they're watching you, they say, oh my gosh, can you believe the Bates man is back? This question to the Honorable Marcel Alaibad, it was so sad for what happened at the hospital. I mean, when I heard the news, it just brings a little tears to my eyes to see what the young people are going through. I mean, these young people think that life is a joke, but life is very serious. I mean, when you're going to take up a gun, actually walk into the hospital, which part the patients for sick patients go to for medication, and just gun down a young man just like that. I mean, babies could be there. I mean, you children could be there and get wounded. I mean, they don't think. Because they want a man, they're going to just run in. I mean, what the man could be doing? So bad, you have to run in and want him dead. And when I listen to the opposition and the radio station, prancing and praising like something rejoice will happen, I say, oh my, oh my, oh my. What this unity construct really all about? I mean, I listen to the Honorable Sam Kando, for God forbid to call his name tonight, but I have to. I mean, Sam Kando talking about the incident and Patches radio station today. I don't know who all here listen voices sometimes, but you know what I'm saying? But sometimes I listen to many radio stations because sometimes I have to hear different people's views. But when I listen to the Honorable Sam Kando and Patches radio station today and what we call Sugar City Rock, I'm mentioning about the commissioner of police, say he's worse. I say, oh my gosh, Sam, you really come up, Pam? Because listen to this, Sam Kando mentioned today. I want you to listen to me carefully, Open up your ears. Sam Kando said today that when the Honorable, I would say give him the Honorable say, even if you have gone, do I ask a fan? He have do a good job which not in crime. I smile. And I smile because he did some good work. I smile. But when Sam said he passed on the baton to him, Sam Terrence Kando said, do I give him the baton? And he did a wonderful job. I cry. And tell you the reason why I cry. I said, Sam, that's why I telling myself when I listen to the radio, I said, Sam, do you forget when a young man in the village was dropping like flies? Do you forget when you was the minister for security, national security, when a young man them dropping like flies? You got them by Rasbo shop, man drop. You got them by Mr. Atley Hoyde, man drop. You got them by what he name by Weeks, man drop. Hoyde. Where your cry was, Sam? I mean, Sam, I want you to be listening because you're listening at the radio station here. Because you're trying to fool people. And young people like me are there to wise up younger people. Because, Sam, I can recall when Zambo Noel Heat get gunned down. Where were you crying? I watch you demonstrating up national, what they call it bank? ECCB Bank. And unfortunately, marching up and down, say unity march. Where was your demonstration when the youths them was gunned down, left, right, and center? You was the man in charge for national security. Where was your cry? But today, you're on the national radio, and I want to call it Sugar City Rock, say, oh, the Prime Minister gave a man from overseas a job. And here what happened? You say you had less resource, but you're doing a wonderful job. Sam, you're going to be insane. But you saying the commissioner have a lot of source and do nothing. And he's the worst commissioner? Sam, I telling you this. You're burning shame to the nation. And the whole constituency tree and a whole to say you used to represent them. France must be turning in his grave to see where you come to. Because I telling the truth. I have no fans for a very long time. I remember he used to over at London, sitting comfortable. I mean, I used to live in the village for a number of years. Right there at Virgin Newton Street. You know, by a man they call Inks. Francis, he was an orderly. I used to live right there. My mother went to the house for summer. Summer was in charge of that house. And Jean Kanda used to pick up the rent. And the very truth, Jean used to tell me, and I hope you're watching, you know. Can watch good, you know, Jean. You tell me how bad Pam be. And be careful of Pam. You told me as a young man, do not allow Pam to get in. Because Pam victimized your husband when he came back from college. And today, you're going around telling people that Douglas is the worst thing ever. I asked you this before I leave. Sam, Timothy, what the Prime Minister have done to you so bad? Tell the nation what he have done to you so bad that you cannot forgive him. But you're going around and telling people, do not vote for this Labour Party because it's the worst thing ever. When you was a part of for 18 years, 18 single years, and you're going to tell me that Douglas is the worst thing ever? Have mercy. You remember when Pam had all type of things to say about you, make you can't go to America? Accuse you in all type of wrongdoing, Sam. There's the one make you get stopped when you try to go to, you remember, try to go to the States from Canada, the bottom? You get caught, red-handed, stop. What do you think you hand a visa? And who make you hand a visa, Sam? The same Pam you're part of. And I want to tell you, Sam, what goes around, comes around, and it comes around harder and before. Have a great night.
Thank you. There's some serious passion there.
Good evening. Think it's sexy. Who don't like it? Jump off.
I have somebody who just sent us a message. They're watching on CUOPM.com. The person says, I'm very impressed with the level of conversation here at Conversations for Progress. They said they're from Sandy Point and they're coming home to be with the entire family to make sure that Dr. Wilson sits in our historic progressive parliament headed by Dr. Denzil Douglas. So they're asking both of you to hold strong, and this one is for the sound provider. Why is there a yellow string on the mic head? It should be red. Sort it out for next week.
Wanted to make some comments with respect to constitutional reform, the topic of constitutional reform. Dr. Henry Brown spoke to the secession clause and said it was time for us to have a look at it again. I want to support him in that call. And I also want to point out the type of imbalance that there is in the Constitution, because as he said, really, it is really a political document. It was done to ensure that the political parties of the day stay in power and have some sort of arrangement that both of them agree to. It really didn't take into consideration, you know, the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis and what would happen over time. So now at 31, a lot of these, you know, inefficiencies are showing themselves. And I want to give you an example. When we debated the land for debt swap, all the lands that were lands in St. Kitts, all, because the Constitution doesn't give the federal government any say with respect to Nevis lands, okay? So, but you had Mac Brantley and all the Nevis people having the ability to vote as to what should be done with the lands in St. Kitts. However, when it comes to lands in Nevis, we don't have any say. There must be something fundamentally wrong with that. That is what is obtained right now in the Constitution. You would also note that the Constitution recognizes only two entities. One is St. Kitts-Nevis and the other is Nevis. So there is no entity called St. Kitts. I don't know, but we need to think seriously about that. So we have no St. Kitts really, according to the Constitution. We have St. Kitts-Nevis and we have Nevis. So, and then you would see what's happening in that regard. With respect to term limits, I believe that any limitation on terms should be with the people. So we can have a discussion about it, but the people must decide, whether in referendum or whatever. If the people decide that we should have term limits, so be it. I don't believe term limits should be left to a few people in Parliament, but the people should decide that. And for the records, I want you to know that the very people who are now talking about term limits, they supported Dr. Simmons as the Prime Minister for 4 terms. 4 terms. And they had no issue with it. As a matter of fact, Dr. Simmons lost his seat, as you know, after the 4th term. And guess what? He was running again for a 5th term. And the very people who you hear on the radio now talking about term limits and term limits, they didn't think then that we needed any term limits. So we have to be really careful. And then you'll hear them say, well, we have to look at what's happening in the US. Well, let's look at what's happening in the US. In the US, there are no term limits. The people in Congress, they run for as long as people vote for them. The people in the Senate, they run for as long as people vote for them. There are only term limits on the president, the office of the president. That is because they have a 3-tier system of government. One such tier is the office of the president. Only one person occupies that office, the president. And so I agree with them. This is an office that has only one person in it, and one person with extraordinary powers, because the president can decide on his own to take the country to war, for example, as he did recently, right? He can decide that on his own, doesn't have to consult with anybody. The president can on his own veto bills passed by other tiers of the government on his own. So I agree with them that if you have a tier of government where it's only one person, then I agree with the term limits. But where you have a whole body, as we have, we don't have any office with one person in it. I believe that the people should decide who they want to run their affairs as far as this term limit is concerned. And I'll tell you what, the political parties don't have to wait till when they get in power to do term limits. If they're really for term limits, they have their own parties and their own party constitutions. So they can start by at the party level going to their conferences or whatever they do hold and coming to the conclusion and putting in their constitutions that they will have term limits for the leader of their parties. They could start there. They don't need to get in office to do that. So much for the term limits. Constitutional reform. we had set up a committee under this government for constitutional reform. The Honorable Sam Kanda was the person, the chairman of that committee. Let him go on Sugar City Rock and tell you what happened during that time. Because the only party, the only political party that did not take part in those constitutional talks was the People's Action Movement. They put nobody on the committee and said they didn't want to be on anything that was run by Sam Kanda. They didn't want to be part of it. Also, when we set up the committee for electoral reform, Sam was the chair. Same thing. The People's Action Movement did not take part. So they didn't take part in constitutional reform. They didn't take part in electoral reform. And if you follow them, you would see that they are not going to take part in anything unless they are in charge. That is how they are. That is what you want. They're very disrespectful of people. Once they're not in charge, they're not taking part. That is their general position. You see what happened to the boundaries thing? Same thing. The only party that did not, political party, that did not have any views, didn't issue any opinion on the boundaries was the People's Action Movement, this time joined by Sam and Tim, who are now integral parts of the People's Action Movement. So I just wanted to say that to you.
Thank you, Minister. Mr. Edinburgh, you have something to follow up with?
Yes, just want to talk about the economy. And Prime Minister, another of the two largest companies in St. Kitts-Nevis just issued their financial statement, SL Hosfords and Company Limited. And again, we have seen where they have made $8.4 million before taxes. But I want to go to a part of the chairman's report, which says the improvement occurred, and he's speaking about the economy now, the improvement occurred in the second half of 2013 and reflects the return to growth in St. Kitts and Nevis economy in 2013. Why is this important? When you, Prime Minister, made that statement around mid-2013, the opposition said you were lying. Even though the IMF said it, even though the central bank said it, they went around this country and saying that you were lying to the people. But in spite of this report, the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, instead of issuing a statement with respect to the state of the economy, as stated by their two largest companies, think it best to issue a partisan tribal statement on the matter of the motion of no confidence. And I'll tell you the problem I have with that part of their statement. They say not debating the motion of no confidence is a blot on our democracy. A blot. And I say, wait, a blot? But all right, if you think that motions of no confidence not being debated creates blot in our democracy, well, there should be 3 blots, not 1. 2 on the palm, 1 on the labor. If you want to be fair and unbiased as a Chamber of Industry and Commerce, you must say that. The genie is out of the bottle. But you, Prime Minister, when you address that situation in your Independence Day message, you did not fail to address the present situation. You addressed them all. And that is the hallmark of a man who cares, a man who looks out for all rather than his own industry and commerce to restate their facts, well, the facts rather. And if you think that not hearing motions of no confidence is a blot on our democracy, you must mention the 3 blots, because if it wasn't a blot then, it is not a blot now. If there was justification to be found then, there can be justifications to be found now. But confidence in a government always comes from the people, because a government can only govern when the people allows it to govern. Good night, Prime Minister. Good night.
All right, so I have a question here. This one is specifically for Minister Liebert. You mentioned earlier that a new incinerator had been installed to deal with the hospital's waste. Somebody from Buckley's here wants to know specifically if it is operational. If it's not, when will it be?
From what I'm told, I think it's already operational. I think they were just waiting for it to be properly housed, and I think that has been done.
So that issue you have there concerning the fumes and if there was smoke, you just had your question answered. You shouldn't have that issue anymore. Sir, go ahead for me, please.
Good night. Respect to all.
Night.
Mr. Prime Minister, my question is a very serious question. Concerning the motion of no confidence, I understand clearly that presently we have 6 selected against 5. I have no problem with that. Mr. Prime Minister, my understanding though, that the representatives are placed there by the electors to carry out the wishes of the people. In the last election, which is the only evidence we got, the Labour government received 60% of the electorate. Now, I understand 6 is more than 5, but 60 is more than 42. So, my real question is this. If the motion of no confidence was debated today, and the 6 was to succeed, could the Governor General place the 6 or place then, using what we got, the 40 over the 60 as government? That is my question. Because, Mr. Prime Minister, it is, for me, I understand the small argument, but I am saying, if we are in a democracy where the majority decides the mandate and the way forward, then it cannot, in my brain, probably mean too smart, it cannot possibly, under any condition, can a government of 40 be placed to govern 60? Mr. Prime Minister, please answer my question. Have a good night.
Mr. Prime Minister, anything for this contributor? Because, I mean, anything for that contributor? Because, I mean, his maths works. His
I think, in a way, he has answered his own question. And it shows the illogic of crossing the floor. You want to?
Yeah, let me tell you why that man is so wise. The Constitution says in the event that there is a successful vote of no confidence in the government, two things may happen. One, the Prime Minister can resign with his cabinet, or in the alternative, if he does not resign, the Governor General can dissolve the Parliament. The Constitution does not contemplate that those 6 over there will automatically fall the government. That's the mistake they're making. If the Constitution had intended that, that was not difficult to write into the provision of the Constitution. But they don't want that to happen, you know. They don't want any vote of no confidence where the government has to resign because they know they will lose. So all this is just political waffle. For example, the leader of the opposition there for PAM, when they had a PAM, he put a motion in the court directing that they should, the speaker should put on the agenda paper this motion of no confidence. Lawyers on both sides speak, and they say, what nonsense is this? So he went and he pulled out his matter from the court. He pulled out his in the morning, and Mark put one in the afternoon. And then I had to laugh. And then we said, they believe this man. Wait for them. The next move, what they did next, was to put into court what is called a notice of discontinuance. But we were ahead of them when they put in that they wanted the court to order the speaker to do A, B, C. We put in what we call a counterclaim and asked the court, could the speaker do that? And we show him why he couldn't do that. So when they're pulling out theirs, we were the only one left on the books. So they had to come in and argue the case that we mounted. And that is why the case is still before the court. So even if the speaker was minded to put that on the order paper, best advice would be that he does not do that, because Labour always waits and respects the court. Wait on the court.
Thank you very much. Somebody here, great program, proud of my Prime Minister and the entire party. Lots of love to my rep, Dr. Wilson. You're on the winning side. And this message is coming from Azarine Rebane. She's in New York. She says, call my name. Okay.
Honorable Minister, I would like to ask a question. If someone just entered the government system working for the government with a pre-existing condition, are they eligible to get the health insurance also? Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Somebody here from Nevis messaging, they said they're glad to hear the conversation about constitutional reform, and in the same vein, they would like the Prime Minister the next time the Honorable Vance Amory comes across to you to ask for assistance, to discuss with them the matter of the wanton victimization that is taking place in the country. They said they think it's time for you to get involved. Okay. Okay. And so that pretty much, I'm not seeing anybody else coming up, and so it's just about 20 minutes to 11. We had a bit of a late start tonight. You have something? Come right ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to the head table. I remember some time ago when there was so much talk about the national debt. Our Prime Minister promises that by the time the next election comes around, there will not be any talk about that. So I was surprised the other day when I understood that there was an Timothy put in something in the court, motion of no confidence, and stating about the national debt. And I said, but wait, where he lives, I would just like to congratulate my government on a job well done to bring down that to where it is today. We do take a lot of things for granted, but I believe it took a lot of courage, a lot of guts, and everything to get that done. What I want to find out now, and this is directed to the Prime Minister, now that the debt restructuring and everything and the debt is done, what are the benefits for the people, especially those who are not as privileged as others? I know of some, but I know that at least it is worth mentioning what is going to happen. What are the benefits for the people? Thank you very much.
I want to thank our questioner. Obviously, let me preface by saying that the opposition really has no new idea whatsoever. None. The opposition did not anticipate that we would have had a victory in waiting them out. And so they planned that the government would have fallen in March of 2013. They actually had set the date. All of the paraphernalia came in Kitts-Nevis for an election of 2013, and they're still up there. Because they never anticipated that the people would support the government in staying in power. You see, many months ago I made a statement that they don't understand what this man is made of. Because I knew that with the guidance of Almighty God and the support of the people, this government was going to go its full 5-year term. So they had no strategy, no plan, no new idea. All they thought that they would do is blame everything on Douglas. Just blame it on Douglas, blame it on Douglas, blame it on Douglas. And they can get into power like that. But that can't happen here. Cannot happen here. And that is why we knew that we had a plan. We had a strategy. We were working to a plan. And working that plan was to ensure that the economy would turn around. That's why we can now see the benefits of the economy having recovered. We could not return an incremental status to every civil servant if we had not done that. So the benefit was almost immediate to return to a situation where every public servant got his increment. We also made sure that there was a salary and wage increase. Pensions were increased. We made sure that not one of our bright students, not one, was unable to go to university because government continued to provide money in the development bank as student loans. the terrible state that we had seen with regard to our roads over in the Southeast Peninsula, Timothy Hill, we knew that the government could only bring infrastructural improvement once the economy had turned around. We knew that the unemployed, since the economy was down, we had to find skills for our young people to acquire until the economy turned around so that they would be finding full-time employment. And so with the improvement in the economy, paying down on our debt, we have much more room and space to spend on our people. And that is why I say to you tonight again, Unity, PLUP, PAM, whatever they call themselves, they will be defeated. They will be defeated. They come to the people with nothing new. The people are educated. The people want to hear ideas. They want visionary leadership. It is absent from them. And so, you are at the point of getting there. Conway's told you earlier tonight, there's much that you have to do still. We have brought it thus far. There is further that we have to go. They have already been defeated because they thought they could collapse our government. Our government has instead collapsed them. And so you have nothing to fear. We are here. Labor is here for you. We continue to insist that you are labor and labor is you.
And on that note, we bring to an end conversations for progress for tonight. You want us a quick last person? Go ahead.
Good night.
Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen. Well, I'm glad the boss is here. And he's the opening batsman. And he will steady all the time. Also, my new representative is the king. He is doing a good job so far. And since I was a small boy, the Democrat Road, well one fix. Who fixed it? The lights over there at the play field, who fixed it? And also, Conrad King said that if he never serious, he'll put down a chailer. Well, he showed that he very serious. He put down wall that he can't move. And he ain't gonna move. And also, we is one back we Village Ramo. And I know we're gonna get it soon. We're gonna get to Village Ramo soon. Because I know the king is working very hard. And he's gonna work harder. And I know that the village gonna be also #1 again when it comes on to Carnival. Because I know that the boss, the king, is very serious man. My old boss man, I try to look for him. He say, come in, he come in. I only call Cummins once or twice, Cummins reach by my house. So long he say he coming by me. Because I really want to talk to him. Because, you know, he's still my boy. He's still my boy. I want him to come. But he can't sit still. He can't come in. Up here see me say, I can reach. I said, you sure? I can reach. But still my boy. But I know when the next election call, Labour will be there. I'm there. Have a good night.
Thank you. Everybody get home safely. We have some refreshments at the back like we always do. Okay, come.
Good evening in the back. You know I gotta touch the mic and big you up. Yeah.
I gotta give thanks for the pep too, as it's a blessing, my lad. I gotta big you up too. But we're here to say to now, right? Is on the behalf of a young man, single parent father, and I mean, we're going through the struggle alone and thing. And just asking what it is out there where we're going to put in place for people like myself too. And I mean, because as we have been looking back in the community, we see how much young man died, as the gentleman was saying a while ago too, over the years, you know what I mean? And that's how we've been seeing in the community towards the youths them. There's a lot of suffering, you know what I mean? So we really would like to know what we put in place to help motivate and uplift ghetto youths, you know what I mean? Respect due to yourself, Daddy Bass. Respect.
Good evening to the panel, table panel. I'm here to say something on behalf of my two sons locked up in the magistrate prison, Jahari Bat and Kelroy Hazel. They locked up from 2011, the 10th of April and 11th of April. And we started to try the case in 2012, where they said that one of the juries was the family, which in the jury never be family. It was going for the third day. They put it off, 2012 July, so they start them the other week. From that up to now, my children case they call up to now. Well, High Court's open yesterday. Chesley Hamilton supposed to be my lawyer. And yesterday I wait all day to see him when he come down. When he come down now, I went to him and I asked him what's going on. He told me that the judge said they put off the case till January again. But my children, them there from 2011, so much of people went in, meet my children, them, and come out, left them. It's very hard. It's hard on my behalf because when I had to visit my children, them, every 2 weeks is my revisit, different people visit. Sometimes I have to left $200 with my children, them, because they ain't taking nothing from we out here. Like we could have had soap, we could have had toothpaste, and so they ain't taking them no more. They ain't taking the roll-on with the ball. I have to buy 2 roll-on sometimes for my children. Them one the roll-on them cost me $24. The kind of roll-on them you could see through, and them kind of stuff there and so. And I think it's hard on my behalf because my children them they lock up innocently. Everybody know that. Lock up for the Commissioner Austin Williams' son, and my children them they're suffering. Yesterday when the lawyer come out and he told me that my children them case gone back till January, something hurt me in my stomach, to tell the truth. I didn't feel good. When I visit my children them this morning, I said, Jahari and Kelroy, what happened? They said that the case gone back for January. I said, Kelroy, you know how bad Mommy had feel? Kelroy said, Mommy, you didn't feel bad like how I had feel. And water run out on my eyes and me did jail this morning to see how long my children them they're suffering. My big son, Kelroy, he's 26 years. Jahari, he 22 years. Kelroy was playing basketball in the magistrate prison. He pulled a hamstring somewhere in here. He was going to the doctor all the time up the hospital. They told the doctor, Hendrickson, tell him that nothing wrong, nothing could be wrong. The child never feel good about it. He told him if he wanted to come to his office. Okay, he said, Mommy, go to the office, make the appointment for me that I could see the doctor. I went to the office, I make the appointment. The Monday, he tell me, the child will come. Go down there, told them that I make the appointment. They kept the child Wednesday. I went up there, me and the boss man with the officer, bring him. When we went in, the same doctor, you know, who's saying that it won't be dangerous, you know, at the hospital, you know, but I carry him by all the time, told me something dangerous and it need to be cut. He tell me to get it cut and cost me $1,200. $1,200. I said, okay. The child turned to me and he said, Mommy, you could afford it? I tell him, okay, we see what I could do. Me and his boss man paid the money. We paid the Wednesday. He said, I then came to the hospital at 7 o'clock in the morning. That's the Thursday. He came, he get the operation done. But up to now, the child said this operation where the doctor do is in do because it's still bothering me and everything. And so, and I see that he did at a prisoner, a remanded prisoner, and I had to pay them kind of money for my child. It's hard on my behalf, and everything now is hard on me because watch how long my children them there for something where they know nothing about. Everybody know that, and it's tight on my behalf. Two children. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Can understand that's a situation.
I think we've heard very clearly the agony of a mom over the imprisonment.
Ladies and gentlemen, PM is speaking. If we could just pay attention for a moment.
I said we've heard the agonizing plea of a mom over the imprisonment, prolonged imprisonment of her two sons without trial. This, I'm sure, is happening under very unusual circumstances. What I will do here is ask Dr. Brown to get the details and look into the matter for us, for me, so that one is better able to appreciate, and for you, Mrs. Hazel, to appreciate what is going on. I empathize with you. I think it is Jehawi, Kelroy Hazel, right? Jehawi Bart and Kelroy Hazel. Okay, thank you for coming. All right.
Everyone, have a good night, and thank you so much for coming out to Conversations. Keep listening to your radios and televisions, and we'll tell you the next day. Take care.